What if you could build multiple streams of income from scratch? Or what if you could retire in 10 years or less and do it with a machine that spits out passive, tax free income for life? Well, today's guest here on my show has been teaching people exactly how to do that for 50 years. His name is Robert Allen. And if you've been anywhere near the world of wealth building, real estate, or financial freedom, you already know the impact that Robert Allen has had. He's the guy who wrote Nothing Down, Creating Wealth, Multiple Streams of Income, and the 1 Minute Millionaire, books that have sold over 5 million copies worldwide and created literally thousands of millionaires. Now, his work has been featured everywhere from Larry King and Oprah Winfrey to the Wall Street Journal. He's spoken to audiences as big as 20,000 people and shared stages with names like Tony Robbins and Richard Branson. Now, at the young age of 77, he's still cranking out bestsellers, including Retire in 10 Years or Less, and how you can become a best-selling author in only 30 minutes a day. Robert Allen has marketed over $1 billion worth of how-to information, and his students have generated billions more in wealth while giving back tens of millions to causes they believe in. This is going to be a masterclass on wealth, mindset, and legacy. Well, I want to welcome you to Raising Private Money Show, the only podcast for real estate investors who want to fund their deals without relying on banks, credit, or using your own cash. I'm Jay Conner, the Private Money Authority, and I'll show you how to get private lenders begging to fund your next deal, because every good deal starts with the money. In just a moment, you're going to meet my friend and my mentor, Bob Allen, right after this.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
Bob, welcome to the show.
Hello, Jay. Good to talk to you again. So excited to be here today.
Yes, always great to talk with you. Bob, before we get into the big picture, I want you to take us back. What was the moment that you realized financial freedom was possible, and what was your first step towards creating financial freedom?
So it always starts with a book for me. And before I graduated from college, I found in my brother's library 2 books. One was Think and Grow Rich. The other one was How I Turned $1,000 into $1 Million in Real Estate in My Spare Time. This, of course, almost 50 years ago. And I thought, well, I've got about $1,000. I can think I'd do that. But I graduated from college and couldn't find a job. And so I said, well, what the heck? I'm just going to take the $1,000 my dad gave me for graduation present. And I bought my first property in about a month. And then I flipped it a few weeks later and turned 1,000 into 6,000. And then I bought a 7-unit building, and then a 12-unit building, and a 40-unit building, another 12-unit building, and lots of single-family homes without a job, without any credit, without any cash flow, without any collateral. And that got me started. I made my first million in 3-4 years. And then I did this challenge that some of you might have heard of. This crazy guy said, send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me $100 bill, and in 72 hours, I'll buy an excellent piece of real estate using none of my own money. That was me. They flew me to San Francisco. The LA Times challenged me and flew me to San Francisco, took away my wallet, gave me a $100 bill, and I bought 7 properties in 3 days and gave the reporter $20 back in change. And so that kind of put me on the map, because now, Jay, you talk about how important it is to have money, and it is absolutely important. You got to have mortgage money. A lot of times you need fix-up money. You need down payment money, all of that. You're the funder of all time. But what I was trying to prove for those people who are maybe can't even qualify to get the money or find the money is you really, it all starts with you. Inside your heart is where the wealth is, and you turn your thoughts, your dreams, your plans, your systems, your ideas, you turn that into external wealth. And that's why I did that challenge. The banker wants cash flow, credit, collateral. I said, that's external wealth. Internal wealth always turns into external wealth. If you have the other C's, the C's of creativity and commitment and creditability and chutzpah, that's a C word. And these all things happen inside all of us. So anybody's watching now and says, well, I can't do it because I don't have any money, so I don't have any credit, don't have any cash flow. That's a lie. You can start with absolutely nothing, and eventually you grow big enough. So you have to go to J to be able to grow faster to get the money flowing in, so you can do bigger and faster deals, right? But some people don't have any money to start with, so that's what these books of mine have been about.
That is powerful, Bob. And you know what's wild is how many people your work has impacted ever since, all the way back to that very first one. I mean, your books have now sold over 5 million copies. You have been a part of creating thousands of millionaires. So why do you think your ideas, I mean, you know, there's a million books out there being published all the time.
Yeah.
And so why do you think your ideas hit such a nerve when they first came out, and why do they still work today?
Well, the first book came out in 1980 as the baby boomers were just coming back into the market. So the interest rates are high. Nobody could buy any property. And so the perfect timing for the book came out, perfect timing. But it's been selling since 1980. Believe it or not, I get royalty checks twice a year from this crazy book that I wrote in 1980. We've refreshed it many times. So it was a perfect timing for that message to come out. Then the next book was called Creating Wealth, also #1 New York Times bestseller. And that book had a really massive impact. Frankly, I talk about in Creating Wealth, you need to retire in 10 years or less. And how do you do it? Well, you just buy 2 single-family homes and hold on to them, rent them out. It's hard to do, hard to find them, hard to finance them, but you just do it. And then 10 years later, then just imagine, what if you bought 20 houses from 1980 to 1990, or 1990 to the year 2000, year 2000 to 2010, year 2010. What if you bought any 10 year, pick any 10 years you want, and you buy 2 properties a year? You'd end up with lots of equity in it. And the book I'm releasing here this month is called Retire in 10 Years or Less, which is essentially an update of Creating Wealth, which came out in the year 1982. This has been a refreshed version and an updated version, which is a book you ought to go get. Retire in 10 Years or Less. Unlock your passive income machine and secure tax-free income for life. So real estate is absolutely the vehicle, and 75% of the money in the United States, guess where it's at? It's in the stock market. It's in 401ks. It's in mutual funds. You know, it's like, let's put money away in a 401k for 40 years and let it grow and compound. And 40 years from now, then we can retire. This is a really bad idea, because things happen in the markets, go up and down. You have emergencies in your life where you have to pull money out of your 401k just to solve maybe your wife's cancer or your son's, accident he had. You need to get it done in 10 years or less. And then you need a system that generates passive tax-free income. Now, most rich people, they do income totally different than ordinary people. Ordinary people, they have active income, and that's job income. They go to job, they come back, they put the money in the 401k, they hang on to their job, they do it for 40 years, hopefully they can retire. Well, they pile up a whole bunch of money, and then when they retire, guess what happens? All that money, that chunk of money they're pulling out of the market, or if they're leaving in the market, they're pulling out of money all the way until they die, and they just hope the money doesn't run out until they die. And that's the terror for most people who retire. They are terrified they're going to run out of money. Well, they could have retired 30 years earlier. And with the cash flow that flows in from their real estate properties, cash flow that's managed by people who manage it properly, professionally, and having cash flow, the streams of income that's tax-free. Now, how does it become tax-free? Well, rich people, how is it that Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett and all these rich people, all these billionaires, why do they pay 6% in taxes where their secretary pays 14, 15, 20%? What is going on? You know how Bezos does it? He just borrows against his stock. And guess what? When you borrow money, the money flows into your life tax-free. You don't even have to report it. So he lives on tax-free money. And so he's got so much stock, he could just keep borrowing against it, and he secures it by life insurance, strangely enough. So if he dies, you know what happens? All the loans are paid off. It's crazy. And, most people don't know this stuff because they are swimming in this idea about how you retire with a 401k and you look at it for a long period of time. Your stockbroker, your advisor makes money whether the market goes up or down, but you don't. When the market goes down, you lose money. And if they buy anything at that time, they still make commissions and you don't. And, that's a vast majority of the way it works for most people. So you have to think radically differently when it comes to your retirement. And I wish one of my students, Ryan Lee, he's the co-author of this. He followed the exact plan in Creating Wealth 20 years ago. He retired, but he did it differently. And this book has some strategies, but he went it radically differently. He says, Robert, I followed your plan. I started buying these real estate deals, and I started being a manager. I was a mid-level manager in a corporation. I was making 6 figures a year. I was working my tail off. And then I decided this thing was Robert. I'm going to do Robert Allen's plan. And he started buying real estate and ended up with what most people happen is they start buying property and they try to manage it. And they don't have the time to manage it. And then a toilet breaks or somebody, walks away without the rent. And therefore they have a second job. And that's the last thing you want. You want to buy property where you don't have to find it. You don't have to fix it up. You don't have to do anything with it. You buy property that's fully, totally repaired and ready to go. And somebody buys it and rents it for you. That's called a turnkey property person, a turnkey provider. And back when I wrote Creating Wealth, there were no turnkey providers. You had to do it all yourself. You had to find it, you had to fix it up, you had to manage it. And most people, either one of those things, what they did wrong. They couldn't find it. When they fix it up, they blew other expenses way out of the water. They had no idea what they're doing. They manage it to a tenant and they got a soft heart. The tenant says, but I can't make my motorcycle payment this month. Please, can I? And therefore they end up losing. And many people who've done real estate my way, frankly, have lost a lot of money. And a lot of people have made millions. There's no doubt about it. I've created thousands of millionaires, but there are a lot of people who tried to do it and just couldn't handle it because they weren't doing it right. I used to say in my Creating Wealth, I said, buy a property that's within a 50-mile radius of your own home. Well, what if you live in Los Angeles? What if you live in San Francisco? What if you live in New York? What if you live in Boston? What if you live, most properties, you can't buy them enough for enough price to be able to rent them out, to be able to cover and have a positive cash flow. It's just almost impossible. So you need to buy them in the places in the country where the prices are low. And how can you do that if you're trying to do what I told you to do, which is invest 50 miles from your own home? You can't do it. So you need to buy in a place you can't visit very regularly. You have to buy property that the price is right, the cash flow is great, the opportunity for growth is fantastic. Anyway, I'm sharing the whole book here with you, but what I'm trying to say is there's lots of ways to create wealth, multiple streams of income. And my job is to help you. Now, Jay, you help people raise money for deals like that, don't you?
I do. Yep. Without ever asking for money, without ever applying for a mortgage. One thing that you talked about at the beginning of the show here was having that internal wealth.
Yeah.
I love that phrase. Because what I talk about all the time is one of the biggest mistakes I see people that are just starting out, either in real estate in general or to raise private money, is they got the wrong mindset. And so I tell people, they ask me all the time, they say, Jay, how do I start? I say, I tell you how you start. You start by owning the real estate between your ears.
There you go.
Is where you start.
Yeah.
And having the right outlook. Well, one of the biggest concepts, and I really believe you get credit for this, one of the biggest concepts that you introduced to the world was this idea of multiple streams of income. I mean, you're the guy who made multiple streams of income right there.
Yeah, there you go.
A household phrase.
I am that guy.
So what's the biggest or one of the biggest misconceptions people still have about building multiple streams of income?
That you got to focus, that you got to, focus on one thing and make it work. That if you have too many things going on, too many balls in the air, that man who chases two rabbits loses both. That's the old phrase. And so they don't want to chase two rabbits. I don't want you to chase two rabbits. I want you to chase 5 or 6, 10 rabbits. I want you to chase lots of them, because you need multiple streams of income, and that income needs to be passive. And so what multiple streams of income this book talks about is 10 ways of making multiple streams of income. And one of my favorite ways, frankly, obviously real estate is right up there, big time. But one of my favorite ways is information marketing, which is what you're doing, Jay. What's a lot of very famous people, they have a book, and this is a book that came out on my birthday this year, #1 bestseller, How You Can Become a Best-Selling Author in Only 30 Minutes a Day. Now, what I just shared with you was how you can take whatever's in your head and your heart, you can turn it into a book. Why do that? Well, because if you have a business, you want to double your business, you need a book. If you're a real estate investor, you need a book. You say, well, Robert, how do I write a book? Well, that book I just showed you is how you do it. But why would you write a book? Because it gives you credibility. And when you hand your book to an investor who you want to borrow money for, borrow money from, and Jay's going to help you how to find people like that. But when you have a book, you can say, well, let me give you a copy of my book. It shares the system of how I make money in real estate. And therefore you talk about your system, how you learned it, how you improved it, how you made it work. And then you give it to your investor, or even you could give it to a seller who you want to buy a property from. They could realize that you're trying to work a win-win proper opportunity with that seller. And the buyer is the person who partners with you. You need credibility, and a book gives you credibility faster than anything I have ever seen. I learned that myself when I wrote nothing down in 1980, and people would come up to me and I'd say, here's my book. And immediately they would look at me differently. And this is what you guys really ought to understand. When you give somebody a copy of your book, you autograph it to them, they never throw it away. But if you give them your business card, that business card will go in the garbage can within hours, because they won't remember how they met you at the conference, and they can't, well, what was this guy? I forgot. You chuck it. I chucked one today. I got a card. It's gone because I can't remember how was that person. So the bottom line is you need multiple streams of income. And obviously the 3 main chapters in this book are about real estate. It has to form a major portion of your wealth, period, end of story. If your wealth is in the stock market, hoping that it'll eventually keep going up for long periods of time, it probably will. But will that be inflation protected like real estate is? No. Will you, when you sell any of it, do you have any tax possibilities for saving taxes from all the stocks you sell? No, but real estate, you can trade it into another bigger property, tax-free. There's all kinds of ways that the government has made real estate the wealth creation tool of all time. So yeah, you need that. And then obviously the other the opportunity that I'm sharing with you is, if you're in business, any kind of business, you want to know what the best business is? It's the information business. example, one of my students, this is maybe 20 years ago, he's a personal trainer and he's going around training with people in their houses, working out $100 an hour, $200 an hour. And I said, you're selling the wrong thing. Don't sell your time. That's active income. You need passive income. He said, how do I do that? He said, what's the biggest problem that your clients have? And they says, well, they're always canceling because they got back pain. And I said, then write a book about that. And so he was making $20,000 a year as a personal trainer. And a couple of years later, he's making $200,000 a month because he has unlimited back pain in the world where he has limited time. And so you have to be in the kind of business where it's digitally delivered. The cost of delivering information is almost zero. And the profit margins are massive. Right, Jay?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing you just shared about having your own book is so true. I didn't realize the power of having your own book until I wrote one of my books, which is called Where to Get the Money Now. And I remember like it was yesterday, I met this guy at the local pharmacy at 7 o'clock at night. They had a little clinic going on how to lose weight. And I wanted to lose some weight. And this guy I met, he needed to lose a lot more weight than I did. And so they were selling these female hormone drops at this little thing. And you put these female hormone drops underneath your tongue. And in 30 days, you lose 30 pounds and you eat all the Cheetos you want. I said, sign me up. So I got my female hormone drops. And this guy was named Al. I never met Al before in my life. But I went out, this was back when you had CDs. We don't have CDs anymore. And I gave him a little CD called Stress-Free Investing. I said, I bet this CD will really be interesting to you. I said, give me a call if you like it. He called me up and we got together in my office that following Monday. And we sat down and I had no idea what in the world this guy did for a living. I said, Al, what do you do? Come to find out he had a problem. He had over $1 million in the bank and he didn't know what to do with it. He was in multi-level marketing. Didn't know what to do with his money. Of course, that's my ethical responsibility to relieve him of that problem. And so we sat down and we visited about my private lending opportunity. And right before we sat down, I gave him my book, just like you said. I gave him my book. And so I said, let me give you a copy of my book. Let me autograph it for you. And by the end of that conversation, he became my next, and I just met this guy a week earlier. He became my next $650,000 private lender. He didn't give me the whole million, but he gave me $650,000. And about a week after that, after we did our first deal, I said, Al, I've just got to know, why did you decide to become my private lender? He said, well, first of all, what you offer in interest rate and how you secure the note, all that got my interest. It was important. He said, but do you know what sealed the deal? I said, no. He said, your book sealed the deal and gave me the confidence in your credibility.
Exactly.
That you knew what you're talking about.
He might not have known really who you are, but as soon as you gave him that book, instantly your credibility went way up, because in our society, an author is respected immediately. When you're an author, if you can say you're an author, if you can say you're a best-selling author, they look at you immediately gives an immediate credibility, and they don't check your credibility. They don't check the letters after your name. They don't tell how long did you go to college, how long you've been in business. You give them your book, it's instant credibility. And so, one of my little side things is I teach people how to write books, and it's just so gratifying because everybody wants to write a book. And here's the mistake they make. Matter of fact, in the first chapter of this, I talk about 12 stupid mistakes that beginner authors make. And then I have this little summit I call the authorsummits.com, where I spend a couple of days teaching them. But the first mistake they make, they tell their story as if people really cared. Nobody cares about your story. Nobody cares. Unless telling your story and the system you pulled out of your own life, and you created a system to make their story better, then they'll read your story. But I open up any book, I can tell you whether it'll be a bestseller, or at least a seller, or whether it will never sell. And I'll tell you the one secret word, the worst word I read: I, me, my, mine. And the best word I read: you, your, or ours. And if there's lots of yous in that first chapter, it means I'm talking to you. I'm changing your life. I want you to be better. I want you to have more money. I want your life. And I have a story, but I'm here to teach you what I learned from my story so your story can be better. And if you have lots of yous, then they know you're talking to them, because, what's the famous FM station, WIIFM?
Yes.
What's in it for me? And if you say what's in it for me, like me, they don't care. Even your family, if you write a book like that, even your family won't read it, because they know you, right? They know most of that stuff is not true. So
Bob, you were speaking on stage at one of the family mastermind conferences, and you said something that I've never forgotten. I'll never forget it, and I've used it ever since. Because I had already published a couple of books that I had written. But one thing you said on stage is, you said, look, when you've got your own book, I'm going to teach you how to change how you introduce yourself to people.
Yeah.
And you said from that stage, you said, when somebody asks you, what do you do? And you've got your own book, you simply say, well, I'm an author, and shut up.
Yeah.
And now they want to know, well, what do you write about? So now they're asking you to talk about your stuff.
Yep, exactly.
It's beautiful. Well, this ties in perfectly, Bob. I mean, you've taught thousands and thousands of people. And what you've done, really, you have helped ordinary people achieve extraordinary success. You've been teaching everyday people how to change their financial lives for over 50 years. So here's the question. You've got a lot of experience in seeing people that make it and people that don't make it. What do you see as one or two of the biggest differences between people who succeed with your system and the ones that don't?
Yeah, they're sitting in the same seminar right next to each other, and one of them takes what I tell them to do. They go out and do it. They make a fortune. That person sitting right next to them in the same set, here's the exact same things, same system, same ideas, and they don't do anything. Well, obviously, most of the time, the person who does it is listening to their true voice. That means that voice that's whispering to them and saying, yeah, you can do this. You can do this. And when I wrote my books, when I write them, when you finish one of my books, I want you to go, I can do this. Because I try to make it simple so a person believes it's possible. Because if you believe it's possible, you just go out and do it. The people who don't do it, they listen to their critical voice. And the critical voice is that little voice up in your head. It's always nagging, always causing you to doubt, always cause you to fear. And that little critical voice, it's not your voice. I don't know where it is. I don't know what it is, frankly. I just know that everybody as humans have this little nagging voice, and they believe it's them. They believe it's themselves talking to themselves. Why would you talk to yourself like that? You're an idiot. You're a fool. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You don't have enough. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough friends. You don't have. And this critical voice is a liar. It's not your friend. And if you listen to it, whatever you listen, if it tells you to do something and you do it, you end up in a bad place. And so, you're asking a real serious question there, Jay. The truth of the matter is everybody's got the critical voice, but the ones who follow their true voice, even though the critical voice is trying to talk them out of it, they follow their true voice. Their true voice is saying, yes, you can do this. And if you follow that true voice and just continue, persist, then eventually you're going to get where you want to go. It's not an easy road. There are all kinds of challenges. I've had lots of challenges in my life. You just continue to follow that true voice and follow systems. Most people start off and they don't have a system. They I want to write a book, and they don't have a system. And if all they do is just get a copy of this crazy book or come to my summit, authorsummits.com, and let me teach you for free on how to do that. But most people, they don't do that. They just say, I think I'm going to write a book, and they start sitting down to write a book, and they're starting writing their story. It's the classic stupid mistake. And they say, but it's my story, it's my life, and people are going to want to know what I learned about my life. And the truth is, nobody cares about your story unless your story makes their story better. And you need a system. And so multiple streams of income, 10 different systems, it's just, you need a system. You got to follow a system, and you have to persist to follow your true heart until you get it.
I love it, Bob. Bob, you've got so many different ways that you serve and teach people through your different books. But from my experience, my personal experience with you, having my own book has had such a major impact. So I believe people listening to this show now know how important it is for them to have their own book, and you can certainly show them how to do it. How could they find out about, of course, you've got your book, right? Yeah. How to write a book, but how could they find out about personally reaching out to you and perhaps even working with you on writing their own book?
Oh, well, thank you. Authorsummits.com is about once a month. I'm going to spend 2 days, usually 3 hours for 2 days in a row, 3 hours on one day, 3 hours on another, 3 or 4, where I literally teach you the system, exactly how you do it, exactly how you find an idea, how you find the people that would love to want to buy it. I have special ways of doing. You want to know why I'm a #1 New York Times bestseller? Is because I've learned from my own mistakes. Some of my books were bestsellers, and some of my books were worst sellers. They were terrible. They were terrible. So I've learned the 12 stupid mistakes I talk about in the first chapter. I made them all, right? And so in the authorsummits.com is the best place to reach me, because I get to talk to you directly. I get to teach you just like this. Obviously, you can get a copy of #1 bestseller on Amazon, and inside there's going to be a QR code where I'll send you all kinds of bonuses to teach you what to do. But I don't want you to be on your own. The problem is there's nobody to ask questions to. You need to, so that's why the QR code's there. Just let me teach you all you need to know. I like to give it away. I give this stuff away because 95% of the people I teach, I make no extra money. Most of the time, I don't even make a royalty on my books. I just like to teach people. I want the word to go out around the world. And a few, 4 or 5% of the people say, Robert, I want to work with you directly, And there are ways of doing that, obviously, and there's a little price attached to it. But I just love to teach. I love your audience here, Jay. They've been following you for so many years. I remember you and I met first time at that event with Ron LeGrand.
I do remember. And over 10 years ago.
Exactly. Ron went to one of my seminars in 1982, borrowed the $500 to go to it. Now he's bought thousands of properties, and he's helped thousands and thousands of people. So I take a little bit of credit for that, but I'm just honored to be here to talk to your audience. I wish you all well. Good luck. God bless. You have a great future ahead of you if you won't listen to your critical voice. Your critical voice doesn't want the next 5 years to be good at all. And the critical voice will cause you to see all the bad stuff in the world. You'll say to yourself, how can there be a God when all this horrible stuff is going on all the time? And yet your true voice is going to tell you, look around what you see. Look at all the stuff you get from just being alive on this unbelievable, beautiful planet, this beautiful blue jewel dangling in the absolute middle of space, where there's life here. And there's 1 trillion different species of life on this planet. And you look in the stars and you see there are 1 trillion stars. Those stars are not little pinpoints of life. Those stars are suns bigger than the sun that came up on your life this morning. And there are 1 trillion of them. Do you know how much 1 trillion is? Well, if you were to count to 1 million, it'd take you 11 days. If you're going to count to 1 billion, it would take you 32 years. If you want to count to 1 trillion at a second at a time, without stopping, it would take you 32,000 years. And so a number 1 trillion is a number that only the government understands. You cannot comprehend this vastness of this universe. And I tell you, my opinion is that did not start all by itself, spontaneously out of nothing. That little beautiful singularity that started this entire universe was touched by the finger of God, and it exploded into the incredible universe we live in. And so your true voice will tell you that. It'll say, look around you at the magnificence. The miracles are happening every single day. And your critical voice, that negative, nagging doubter inside you, will say, look at how horrible this place is. And you get to choose which one of those you believe. And I can tell you which one I believe. And I believe that if you believe in higher power, great, wonderful. Then why do you put him on your board of directors? And if you don't believe in a higher power, if you believe this all started from nothing, if you don't believe in higher power, I want you to know that higher power believes in you because you're his son or daughter. And he sent you here to learn lessons. And if you refuse to learn them, one day you'll meet him and you'll say, oops, I just spent an entire lifetime not believing in you. And can we go back and have a redo? No redos. This is it. This is the only life you get. So I wish you well, my friends. I love you for your desire to listen to this class here with Jay constantly. He's always sharing this powerful information with you. You're a winner. You want to learn. You want to grow. My wish for you is that you grow into the purpose of your life here. What are the talents and the gifts you've been given, and magnify those, grow into those, and create some wealth along the way, internally and externally. Ray, I love your people. I love you. Jay, you're awesome. Every time I say, look at this smile. Look at the smile of this guy. You never see him without that smile. Do you know how wonderful that is? Jay, I love you, brother. Love you.
I love you too, Bob. And what an inspiration you are to me and to thousands. And again, visit Bob at www.authorsummits, that's plural, authorsummits.com. And that's all on the show notes. God bless you, Bob. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, everybody. See ya.
All right. Bye for now. Bye. And thank you for attending here and showing up for this amazing, truly amazing episode that we've had here with Robert Allen. What an inspiration. What a legacy he has. And look, he's still cranking it out. Take advantage. Take a chance on yourself. Reach out to Bob and let him show you even the better and higher way. I'm looking forward to seeing you right here on the next episode of Raising Private Money. And in the meantime, do me a favor so I can keep having more amazing guests on the show, like Robert Allen. And that is, be sure to like, share, subscribe, give me 5 stars, follow me if you're there on iTunes, and click that bell if you're watching on YouTube. I'll see you right here on the next episode of Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jayconner.com/moneyguide. That's jayconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jayconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.